So, as Troy's favorite clip likes to say, something not that chill happened last week.
Something not that chill happened last night.
It's been a long 2 weeks. So, about 2 weeks ago, we started renovations on my upstairs, and a couple days into the renovations, I get a call that we have 4 inches water in my basement.
Jesus Christ.
So, my first thing that comes to my mind is, oh my God, something that is going on upstairs hit one of my fish tanks, it exploded, and there's fish tank water and fish all over the basement. All my fish are dead. So I run home, and luckily for the fish, both of my fish tanks are intact. Not one fish has died. All the fish are doing good. But bad for me, I still have my 4 inches of water in my basement. So some of you may want to know what exactly happened to flood my basement. Well, about 4 years ago, my sump here flooded because my sump pump ran out. So we got a new sump, and then we also installed a hydro-powered backup sump, and the backup sump was installed accidentally without a check valve, which ended up sending water from this water line through to the hydro-powered pump, which just fed directly into the sump, which caused a rapid flooding and got us about 4 inches of water in the basement in about 3 hours. So that was a lot of fun. So what caused the backup sump to have to run is the fact that we had to cut the power for the renovations going on upstairs. Then when we found the water in the basement, we had to make sure that electrical stayed off because we didn't know the cause yet. So that left a few hours of time where the fish tanks did not have power. So I was freaking out. I didn't know what the timeline would be on getting power back on. So what we ended up doing was we took 100-foot extension cords and we brought them from upstairs across my yard to my neighbor's house. We brought them up and put them into the drop ceiling and hung them down here to keep them dry and led them to the tanks. So my good neighbors, good friends of mine, helped me out, and we ran extension cords all the way to their house in the meantime so we could have power for the tanks until we figured out what the cause for the flood was. So at least it was not fish related. We figured out the problem. We had a restoration team come help us out, cleaning everything, drying everything. It, like I said, has been a pretty long 2 weeks with the renovation going on upstairs, but also with the cleanup going on downstairs. So my fish tanks have been a little bit neglected. They're a little bit dirty. The fish are pretty hungry. So I figured in this video, I would kind of show you the status of the basement fish room and the status of the basement fish tanks, and just go through the process with you guys, cleaning, feeding, and water changing all 3 of my tanks. Starting off with the 180-gallon Mbuna tank here. This is my favorite tank to feed because 1, they don't splash me, but 2, they are very eager eaters. You can see they are very ready, so let's go. I feed them extreme veggie pellets. These guys get after it. Come watch these guys. I poured a lot of pellets in there, but they're already looking for more. That's how they are every time. Next up, we have my 40-gallon quarantine tank, currently housing 6 Mbuna in here who are very camera shy. So probably won't even see them. But I'll put some food in here that they'll pick at later. They always do this. Anytime I bring the camera out, they run away, but then they come out later and pick the food off the sand. So I'll let them do that before I start my water change. These guys are pretty awesome normally, just not for the camera. And last but not least, the big dogs, the 220-gallon Predator half tank. We'll be feeding these guys with, I don't know if you can see this, but we got extreme big fella and extreme monster pellets. And these guys are big fellas and monsters. This one is not as fun to feed for me because they always either splash me or leave huge water stains all over the glass. So let's see if they'll have their manners for you guys or not today. That is hilarious. That is like the most docile they've ever been for feeding. These guys are like Hoover vacuums. No traces in the tank within about 5 seconds. So I like to feed the tanks before I do a water change. That way, whenever I get water out of the tank, it'll suck some of that debris out as well and kind of help clean things. But before we do a water change, I like to go ahead and scrape any biofilm or algae off the outside glass, which it's one of those things, if you watch my last video, you can't really tell until after you do it a lot of times, or if you look really closely you can see the biofilm. Alright, I got a lot of water to change, so I got a huge Vivo Sun water pump that pumps 2,600 gallons an hour out with 1-inch thick braided tubing, so it kind of really speeds up the process. So let's get right to it. So what I do is I turn on the pump and it follows the braided tubing all the way to my shower, where you can see how fast and hard that water is pumping. So while that water change is going, I'll go ahead and start cleaning the glass on the big tank. Well guys, the hits just keep on coming. While I was about to hook up my Python to fill up the 180, I dropped it on the tile here and the top part broke off. So won't even come back on. So on to plan B, emergency plan B. I am filling up this tote right here with shower water, which I'm gonna put the pump into and hopefully pump the water all the way through the braided tubing here, back into the 180. Not ideal, but hey, it's just the way things are going down here lately. Like I said, it wasn't ideal, but we scrambled. We got the water pumped backwards, back into both tanks, at least that high. That's something I can live with overnight, and then I get to the pet store tomorrow to get a new Python.
Several days later.
They're only a few seconds for you, but a couple days for me, because I had to order a part for my Python that broke. And that's just this right here. But I also took this opportunity to go ahead and make a second purchase, a second Python for my 2-sink bathroom. So that's gonna help make my water changes a lot more efficient and quick for me. So as you can see behind me here, the water is very clear and the fish are doing great, but since the mishap, I did not get to fill it up all the way because it was a very long and tedious process. So I gotta finish topping off this tank and the big tank, and then I have to finish my water change on the quarantine tank. So let's get right to it. The water changes are done, the tanks are clean, the fish are fed, everything looks great, with the fish tanks that is. The basement itself, however, it might be a long process. I am kind of excited at some of the ideas I have for the renovation process once we get that started with fixing this place up and making it a living space again. I just think you gotta look on the bright side of things. That's an update on my tanks and where I'm at currently. So stay tuned and follow along for all the updates I will have as I renovate this basement fish room. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.